The atmosphere in the transport van was suffocating, but Marcus Reed didn't feel the heat. He felt the weight of the digital recorder pressed against his chest. Back in the courthouse, Judge Vance was frantically shredding documents, her hands trembling as the reality of the FBI warrant set in. She thought she could bury the evidence of her secret deals, but she didn't know that every keystroke and every whisper in her private chambers had been monitored for months. Marcus, sitting on the cold metal bench of the van, closed his eyes and visualized the map of her corruption. It wasn't just about her racism, it was about the lives she had auctioned off to the highest bidder. Suddenly, the van screeched to a halt. The doors swung open, but instead of the prison gates, Marcus saw the flashing blue and red lights of a dozen federal vehicles. Agent Carter stood there, holding a key. "Job's done, Marcus," he said, unlocking the cuffs. Marcus stepped out, smoothed his suit, and looked back toward the courthouse where Judge Vance was being led out in handcuffs, her face hidden behind her legal robes to avoid the cameras. The predator had finally become the prey, but the biggest revelation was still hidden in a safety deposit box that only Marcus had the key to. The sidewalk outside the courthouse was a sea of flashing lights and chaos. As the cameras zoomed in on the fallen judge, Marcus stood in the shadows, watching the woman who had spent decades playing God finally face a power higher than her own. But as he looked at the files in his hand, he realized the rot went deeper than just one courtroom. The safety deposit box he had visualized wasn't just full of bank statements, it contained a ledger of names of other officials, lawyers, and politicians who had paid Vance to ensure specific outcomes. The victory felt heavy. Marcus knew that by exposing this ledger, he was no longer just an undercover agent, he was now the most hunted man in the state. His phone buzzed with an encrypted message, *, they know about the box. Move now. *. In that moment, the hunter realized that the trap he had set for the judge had attracted much larger predators. He turned away from the scene, blending into the crowd, knowing that the real war for justice had only just begun, and the lines between the law and the lawless were about to blur forever. Marcus stood at the edge of a rain-slicked pier, the city skyline shimmering like a ghost in the distance. The ledger sat on the passenger seat of his car, a ticking time bomb of ink and paper. Every name in that book represented a broken family, a wrongful conviction, or a life stolen by a system that traded souls for silver. He realized that Judge Vance was just a foot soldier in a much larger army. As he flipped through the pages, he found a signature that made his blood run cold: the governor's private seal. This wasn't just a local scandal, it was a statewide conspiracy that reached into the highest offices of power. The silence of the night was broken by the sound of tires crunching on gravel. 3 black SUVs pulled into the lot, blocking Marcus's only exit. Men in tactical gear stepped out, their weapons drawn and focused on his chest. A man in a tailored gray suit stepped forward, his face obscured by the shadows of his umbrella. "Hand over the ledger, Marcus," the man called out, his voice calm yet lethal. "You've done your job for the Bureau. Now, let the adults handle the politics." Marcus gripped the steering wheel, his mind racing. He knew if he handed it over, the names would disappear, the crimes would be erased, and the cycle would continue. He shifted the car into gear, his eyes fixed on the narrow gap between the SUVs. If you discovered that the very people meant to protect you were the ones hurting you, would you go public or try to fight them from the shadows? Is Marcus a hero or a man who has gone too far? Share your thoughts below. The engine roared as Marcus slammed his foot on the accelerator, the tires screaming against the asphalt as he aimed the car straight at the gap. Gunfire shattered his rear window, glass spraying like diamonds across the interior, but he didn't flinch. He swerved at the last second, clipping the bumper of an SUV and spinning onto the main road. His heart hammered against his ribs, not out of fear, but out of a cold, burning resolve. He wasn't just an agent anymore, he was a witness to a betrayal that reached the very heart of the government. He pulled into a secluded parking garage, his hands shaking as he pulled out a satellite laptop. With a few rapid keystrokes, he began uploading the entire ledger to a decentralized public server. The progress bar crawled forward 10%, 40%, 70%. Just as the upload hit 99%, the car door was ripped open. Marcus looked up into the barrel of a suppressed pistol. It was Agent Carter, his own partner. "I told you to let the adults handle this, Marcus," Carter whispered, his eyes filled with a strange kind of regret. Marcus looked at the laptop screen, then back at Carter, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Too late," Marcus said, as the word "upload complete" flashed in bright green. The truth was no longer in a box, it was everywhere, and the world was about to watch the powerful crumble in real time. The silence in the garage was absolute, broken only by the hum of the laptop and the distant sirens echoing through the city. Agent Carter's finger tightened on the trigger, his face a mask of conflict as the blue light of the screen reflected in his eyes. Marcus didn't flinch, he leaned back against the seat, the heavy weight of the mission finally lifting off his shoulders. The sent notification flickered on the screen, a digital spark that was already igniting a fire in every newsroom from coast to coast. The governor's secrets, the judge's bribes, and the names of every corrupt official were now public property. Carter slowly lowered the weapon, a long, weary sigh escaping his lips. "You've ended us all, Marcus," he whispered, looking at the chaos he knew was coming. Marcus stepped out of the car, the rain washing away the grime of months spent undercover. He looked at the courthouse in the distance, where the lights were turning on one by one as the world woke up to the truth. Judge Vance was in a cell, the governor was preparing a resignation he knew wouldn't save him, and the system was finally forced to look in the mirror. Marcus walked away into the darkness, a man without a badge, without a title, but for the first time in his life, a man who was truly free. Do you think true justice can only be achieved by breaking the rules, or should we always follow the law even when the law is broken? If you were the whistleblower, would you stay to face the consequences or disappear like Marcus? Sound off in the comments below.